We're going to look back at a very busy Sunday. There are 11 games on in the NBA. We're going to take a look back for all the fantasy basketball implications from those games. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am Mr. Worldwide, and I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, and TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. 11 games on. We're going to look at all that action there. I did a waiver wire show earlier today with the recent trends. I'm going to update you on the status of all of the matchups in the Industry Pickup League at the end of the show, once everything is done, and we can give you the results of that. So we'll do all of that in today's episode, so we'll get straight into it. Right now, let's just have a look at a couple of news things that have broken of late. Two things in terms of two-star All-NBA point guards. De'Aaron Fox is practicing fully, but he's doubtful for Monday's game. So unless you play on ESPN, you can still consider Keon Ellis a stream. Davion Mitchell's getting fewer minutes there. Duarte's out of the rotation, but Monk and Herter become the big options, and Ellis becomes a sort of a deeper league stream guy there. Damian Lillard, on the other hand, has been upgraded to probable, so your campaign streams have been dropped down. Let's see how Adrian Griffin deals with this and if the Bucks look any better. But Jay Crowder has been ruled out for Milwaukee, but Fox, doubtful, getting closer to returning. Lillard looks like he will return, and I would guess that those two games that he set out were resting without wanting to get fined on the second half of back-to-back. So this is what my issue with those player participation resting policy things. Has it made it worse? Where teams might rest someone on the back-to-back and then rest them another game, so it seems like they were actually hurt, so they don't get fined. Let's watch that. Yeah, that's possible. Wouldn't be unusual for the NBA to institute a rule to fix something and in the end make something else worse or make the initial problem worse as it is. We have seen them do that with other things plenty of times before. So we can get straight into these games because there are 11 of them for us to talk about. That is the wrong one. This is the correct one. It is the Charlotte Hornets and the New York Knicks was the first game of the day. A very, very early game of the day. They were started at midday Eastern. The Hornets lose to the Knicks pretty comfortably, 129-107 the final score. There were some people who were worrying about LaMelo Ball to begin the season. He's 10th over the last 5 games, 32-7-6 with 4 threes on 65% shooting. He's not obviously going to shoot like that, but yeah, he's pretty good now. He's back to normal. 23 minutes only for Mark Williams, 10-4 with 2 steals. Still not a bad game, but he missed his first shot in the last 3 games, so that hurts somewhat. While Big Dick Nick, 16-4, continues to be an interesting stream option. Let's talk about the guys who have been playing well. One of them was Gordon Hayward. He did not play well. 6-1-2 in 29 minutes. The Hornets only have one more game before Miles Bridges returns. Now, Hayward may end up being a drop. Bridges, I don't think he's going to slot straight back into the starting group when he returns, but it will have somewhat of an impact on Hayward and on PJ Washington, who was bad. 4 points, 13% shooting, 22 minutes. He has been a guy that has gone up and down with his shooting numbers at times. Both of these guys, Washington and Hayward, still remain 12-team players, but we might see a hit coming, and I do really fear that Brandon Miller is not going to be a 12-team guy. He got hurt in this one, didn't return. Played 10 minutes, 11 points, so obviously was off to a strong start, 11 points on 83%, but when Rozier and Bridges both return, I just don't see how Miller, outside of other injuries, is going to get enough minutes to be useful. Now, so for now, you can hold him, but I would be anticipating a drop. With Rozier out, with Bridges out, with Martin, Ntilikina, and then Miller out, we actually saw 17 minutes of Ish Smith. Cool. 4 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals for Ish, who somehow is still in the NBA. For the Knicks, Manuel Quickley, 17 in 26 minutes with 9 assists, but the same problem exists What are his minutes in every night? Like, this is a blowout game, so we only got 27 Julius Randle minutes, 27 Jalen Brunson minutes. I just don't trust quickly to play enough every night. In a 10-team format, that's really hard to hold. Same goes with Josh Hart, who played 27 minutes and had 6, 4, and 2. Hart needs 30 minutes to be a 12-team guy, and he's just not going to get it. So I wouldn't bother holding Josh Hart in most 12-team formats. Only 24 minutes with Mitchell Robinson, 10 and 9. That's not terrible. While Hartenstein had 6 and 6 with a steal and 2 blocks. That's really good for those minutes, but they're sort of locked into those roles. Randle and Brunson both had 20. Randle actually had 23. But we've got to talk about Rowan Barrett, who is playing really well. 24, 4 and 2, 4 threes, a steal and a block. Now, we have acknowledged for a long time that Rowan Barrett has been bad at category leagues because he was a scorer who did it on below average percentages, both of them, with low rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and threes. So he was a positive in one category. He has improved this season. His free throws are up, which is encouraging. His field goals are up as well. But there is a caveat to that. He's hitting 50% of his threes. And he just won't continue to do that. That might drop 15 percentage points, which will then drop so much of his other numbers back down. So yes, we do roster Barrett at the moment, but understand there is going to be something that does drop off for him. And it will drop off, I imagine, relatively soon. I don't know that for sure, but I would imagine it's not going to stick around for too long where he shoots 50% from 3. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's also the easiest and the most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against numbers. It's not against sharks. It's not against pros. It's not thousands of other players and worrying about salary caps. It's just individual player projections. And you look at the stats and you just say more or less. Between 2 to 6 of those players, you stick them into an entry, and then you can get up to 25 times your money back if you win. You can also play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like Meek Mill or comedian Andrew Schultz. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community every week. They've also got the reboot policy, so if one of your players gets injured and they don't return in the second half, well, that player just gets rebooted in your lineup, so you don't lose out. The only daily fantasy sports platform that offers that injury insurance. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Let us go back into the games now. And this was I don't even know if interesting is the right word, because it's not interesting. It is frustrating to watch the Wizards, play any game, really. And in terms of trying to analyze what's going on, it's almost impossible as well. The Nets win at 102-94. Now, the Wizards had been running these 13-man rotations. So instead, today, Wes Unseld Jr., coaching genius, has said, nah, we're going 9. Okay, Wesley, why? What is the difference between this game and every other game? Literally nothing. But you just, on a whim, choose what you're going to do every game. Now, the starters continue to be embarrassed. Jordan Poole continues to be dreadful, -22. Kyle Kuzma was worse, -29. Tyus Jones was not necessarily worse, but yes, worse, -16. They stink. Jones, 23 minutes, 0 points, 0 of 5 shooting with 1 assist and 2 steals. Now, while it is very clear at this point that I overprojected Jordan Poole, I didn't expect Poole to come in and play fewer minutes than he was playing in the Warriors, to take fewer shots than he played in the Warriors, despite being the number 1 option. I didn't expect any of that stuff. And I don't think a reasonable person would have looked at Jordan Poole and go, yeah, things will probably shrink when he goes to a team with no players. Right? That's not a reasonable expectation. But he has been terrible. He looks nonchalant. The coach keeps benching him. But I was also down on Tyus Jones. And that one, so far, if I'm going to say that Jordan Poole's not wrong yet because we've got a lot of the season to go, which is true, I'm not going to say that I'm right on Tyus Jones because there is a lot of the season to go. But I also just don't know whether Tyus Jones is actually a legitimate starting point guard. I'm not sure that he is. In fact, I'd be a little worried on this team, or if I had Tyus Jones and I invested heavily, which you probably didn't, I would worry that at some point he just continues to play reserve minutes or gets benched, Bilal starts and pulls the point guard. Wouldn't be surprised. Jones, just much like his brother, they're solid, they're steady, but I'm not sure they're starting point guards. If you wanted to drop Tyus Jones, I get it. And if I'm in a 10-team league, bye-bye, see you later. If I'm in a 12, he probably is a hold, but at 12-team points, I'm not sure that he is. I have got this question multiple times, so I'll address it now. No, you do not drop Jordan Poole. I know it has been a rough start for Jordan Poole. It has been a bad start for Jordan Poole. he is still a top 120 player. So that would suggest to me, even though you invested quite a bit in him, as did I, you don't drop him just because you're frustrated. 12, 5, and 2, 1 free throw attempt, and he missed it. The man is just completely out of sorts. The coaching doesn't help, but Poole is also to blame. It is a gigantic buy low, and by gigantic buy low, I mean you throw your worst players at him. Your 2 worst players, your 10th best player, whatever. Because I just don't see how it continues along this path. Poole did play 30 minutes again, and it's 3 straight 30s in a row, but he's just not getting any shots. Because the guy who keeps dominating the shooting is Kyle Kuzma. Now, we also talked about Kuz not having any chance of replicating it or continuing the shooting, and he didn't. 15 points, 25% shooting, 7 of 10 from the line, back to earth there. But he did add a steal and 2 blocks, and he's been very solid. But it is coming back to earth. That's the negatives. Let's talk a bit more positive. Denny Avdia, 38 minutes, 14 and 9 with 3 steals. Now, I reckon about 3 games ago, he was playing 23 a night. Again, no way of predicting anything that this Wizards team is going to do. And Denny, who'd been shooting unbelievably, shot horribly. 33% on 18 attempts, but he still took somehow 18 attempts. He is a 12-team league guy while this is going on. But the big story here was Bilal Coulibaly. 34 minutes, 20 points, 4 threes, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals. Absolutely 100%. That is a 12-team line. Now, there are a couple of things there that we just have to be careful of. Does he play 34 a night? Probably not. Could he? Yeah. He's moving into, let's see, and then luxury stash. Because you do know that at some point this season, but whether that's December 1st or it's March 1st, he's going to be a 30-minute a night guy every night. He also shot 67% from the field, and that won't stick at that level. So yes, he's okay to grab. He's a great stream for Monday, and let's see how they use him. It is very interesting to me that he is taking on almost a Bruce Brown role in this team, and I'll explain what I mean. Last season, when any Denver starter would sit, Bruce Brown would start. And that's what's happening here. Daniel Gafford hurt his thumb, Bilal started. Happened earlier, Gafford hurt his ankle, Bilal started. I just feel like anyone who goes out, Bilal will start. And that gives him great appeal. But also, a week ago, he played 14 minutes a night. So who knows? As for Gafford, 5 and 5 with 2 steals. He's not a great return, but he was averaging 3.7 blocks over his previous 3 games. He had a locker room trip with a thumb injury, but he did return. He still does need rostering in 12-team leagues, even though it continues to be a frustrating experience for Gafford. Frustrating. He's a very clear top 100 guy, though, over the last 5 games. Very clear. That's for categories. For points, not quite as much. But he's actually averaging more fantasy points than Tyus Jones is. Not much else going on there with that team, as frustrating as they are, and I think it's going to be one of those situations basically all season. For the Nets, when we talk about frustrating things and trying to work out fantasy production, this is what I mean. Nick Claxton goes down, we go, all right, they'll probably start Day'Ron Sharpe, 22, 24 minutes. Great option. Claxton goes out, first game, Sharpe plays 3 minutes. You go, well, what on earth are we doing? Right? This makes no sense. How can the backup come in and play fewer minutes? And then Sharpe was getting 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 14 minutes, 13 minutes. Claxton returns, so Day'Ron Sharpe plays more minutes. There's no logic behind it. And we can't figure that out. Now, Sharpe was pretty good. 8 and 12, a steal and a block. And this is why I did recommend him to be an ad when Claxton went down. Because look at those numbers. He just unfortunately got eliminated from the rotation. It's like Claxton's injured 2 centers, and I don't know why. As for Clax, he's back, 10 and 13, 4 blocks, 71%, 27 minutes. Awesome. Let's go. Let's roll it out with Claxton. He was dropped in leagues. Idiotically, but he was dropped. Sorry if that's you, but that was idiotic to drop him. With Cam Thomas out, Mikal Bridges took every shot. They didn't go in, but he took them. 29 shot attempts, 27 and 13 on 38% shooting and only 3 of 5 from the line. Continues to be, I would say, a little bit disappointing, Bridges in his production, but at least the shots were there. While Dinwiddie's minutes continue to be anybody's guess. 31 minutes for him, 12 and 4, 2 steals and a block. It does help that Thomas was out, Simmons was out, and then Lonnie Walker hurt his knee. Dorian Finney-Smith played only 20 minutes. Foul trouble for him. O'Neal got to 31 minutes. That's likely because of Walker's injury and Finney-Smith's fouls. As for Lonnie, I talked about this on the waiver wire show. I have no interest in him really in 12-team leagues outside of an occasional stream. 5 points, 14 minutes. Hurt his knee. I wouldn't bother with that. Dennis Smith's a good stream while Simmons is out. 8 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. And what's the other one there? Cam Johnson, 35 minutes in his second game back. 14 and 6 with 2 threes. His shooting's not quite there yet. He is well down the ranking numbers, but I have extreme confidence that Cam Johnson is going to be able to return and is probably better off, or probably a target, I think, for a buy low is what I'm trying to say, and get out really clumsily. This is another one that I think is going to take a little bit of time because there's this stuff to talk about here. It's Memphis and the Clippers. Memphis gets a win, 105-101. I don't know where we start here. Let's start with the fact that unknown player played 24 minutes for 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 threes, and 3 steals. Now, that joke will only make sense to people who play on ESPN because, of course, you can't add Jacob Gilead. And in their box scores, he appears as unknown player. You blokes might want to fix that at some point in the last 2 years. I don't know, just me. Gilead started even though Ziaire Williams was back. Now, Gilead didn't blow us away. He didn't blow the bloody doors off. He had 3 assists and 3 steals and 2 threes. That's useful for a lot of leagues. I don't know that he keeps starting, even with Williams back, but he did. So he's got to be at least on the stream radar. 36 minutes for Bismack Biyombo. Holy shit, what is going on? 13 and 12 with 2 blocks. I don't know what happens when Xavier Tillman returns, but I'm not sure that Tillman's going to waltz back into the starting spot if they're happy with what Biyombo is doing, which it appears they are. So Biyombo is a 12-team league guy. Tillman's a drop, and we see where it goes. Des Bane had 27 on some rough shooting, while Marcus Smart, 17, 3 and 7, and another 4 triples for Kennard. He's an elite 3-point shooter, the Duck. Had another 4 of them here. That's what he brings. I think maybe not completely, but the Santi Aldama is going to play 30 minutes next to Jaren Jackson. Dream's probably dead. 9 points in 21 minutes for Santi. They just don't like to do this. They don't. Jaren didn't do anything, actually. 12 and 4, 29 minutes, 20% shooting. He quietly, again, because I think most people who listen to this show or listen to me did not take him around pick 12 or pick 13, which is where he was projected a lot of the time, and it's where he allegedly finished last season according to rankings. So I guess nearly everyone listening to this show wouldn't have even considered him around that spot. But if you did, I'm sure you'd be barking about how bad he has been, because he's been nowhere near that number. The blocks aren't there. The shooting's not there. He has these weird low-minute games. He's been disappointing. Like, very disappointing. What else is going on with this team? Oh, yeah, 9 minutes for Ziaire Williams. Cool. Not really sure what happened there. As he works his way back, we're obviously not holding on to him in any 12 or probably even 14-team leagues. But let's talk about the Clippers. And this is where psychology at some point plays a part in fantasy basketball because a couple of things. Yesterday, I put Paul George under the lens and talked about his last 3 games, the games with Harden, and looked at why he dropped so far, and his rankings were so low. And I said, just be aware, his assists have dropped probably because Harden's there. But so much of why his production has dropped has got nothing to do with Jim Harden. And of course, there were people who disagree with it. Nah, it's definitely Harden. Stop trying to cover for him. It wasn't Harden. It was the fact that he was shooting 17% from 3. So Paul George played 37 minutes, had 26, 7 and 7, 2 steals and 3 threes on 50% shooting and 31 usage. Looks pretty okay to me. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be always like this. It's going to be up and down. There is going to be an impact as they all get used to each other. But it is always worth mentioning is that the narrative of someone killing everybody on the team is not always the real thing. Now, I could easily say that Kawhi's usage is down because it is. It's way down. He's looking terrible. He cannot work it out at the moment. That's more to me an impact of Harden than it was for Paul George. 14, 5 and 3, 1 steal, 2 blocks for Kawhi on 38% shooting. He can't get settled. And neither can Harden. But this is your ultimate time to get one of the biggest buy lows ever. Harden might be on washed watch. He might be. I don't think he is, but he legitimately might be. He might be just completely done. I don't think that's the case. But with the amount of invective spewed forth his way, people hate the guy. Obviously, he's ruined the Clippers. He's killed all of them. Ignoring that George just had 26, 7 and 7. Harden had 11, 4 and 3. I'm not defending the bloke. I'm not saying he's playing well. He's not. Do they look better with him out there? Absolutely they don't. They do need a little bit of time to settle in, and maybe it's not going to be maybe it's going to be one of the worst moves that we see. Distinctly possible. But what we do in fantasy basketball is we try and take the emotional issues that other people have with the reactions to it, with the way that we look at one thing or a 4-game sample, go, well, this is absolutely what is happening for the next 70 games. No ifs or buts. This was what will continue to happen. Harden's a cancer everywhere he goes. Look what the Mavs announcer said. He roasted him. Absolute ethering. Right? You use all of that stuff to throw a buy low on Harden. Now, a buy low is not a top 40 player. A buy low, and you probably don't pull this off. It's probably impossible. Not impossible. It won't be impossible. You try and do something. but you see what the manager is thinking, and you throw a top 90 guy, a top 80 guy. It might not work. But is it crescendo? It probably is. Absolutely crescendoing up to a hatred of Jim Harden. He has ruined the Clippers. He is washed. They've killed their season. They've tanked their future. What am I doing with this guy? Why did I reject future trades for him? I just want him off my team. This will work in some leagues. And you do it. And the reason why you do it is even if he is washed, even if he is, you didn't give up a top 50 player. You gave up a top 90 player. And that doesn't matter. And if it works, well, that's what you call a league winner. It's not. I'm doing air quotes, audio guys. I'm doing air quotes. League winners don't exist. All right, it's air quotes. But that is where we try and leverage the emotional reactions of other managers who feed into the social media frenzy around certain things. And again, I'm not saying he's been good. I'm not saying he's even going to be good. I'm not saying that this isn't a disaster. It could be. But the story isn't written. So we can get something out of it maybe. Bones Highland out of the rotation. Hey, if you disagree with that, by the way, about Harden, comment on it. Leave it below. But I'm trying to give a situation of a very low risk situation to turn into a high reward, even if it is a smaller chance of a high reward. Zubats only played 23 minutes and had 6 and 6, which is weird because they don't have other centers, and Diabite got injured and didn't return. He played only 12 minutes and Tucker played only 13, so they just went small. So that meant more minutes for Norman Powell, who did play all right. 20 points for Norm in 31 minutes. I still don't think we need to worry about him in 12s, but him playing that much and playing better pushed Bones Highland out of the rotation completely. And we got 7 minutes from Terrence Mann. Obviously, we're not Terrence Manning in 12-team leagues, and we're probably not doing it in 14. I haven't talked Westbrook, but I'll do it now. 12, 9, and 5 with 3 steals. He's definitely not the reason that they lost this game. He was all right. I still don't think that the Westbrook-Harden combo can really work long-term. Do they bench Harden or do they bench Westbrook? I think one of them has to be removed from the other as much as possible. Not to say they can't coexist, but it creates issues with Zubats and George and Leonard at the same time. So I think something is going to have to give there. What it is or when it happens, I'm not really sure. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Jace Case and Jace Medical. The Jace Case is a set of 5 life-saving antibiotics that you can have at home for if you're in a situation where disaster strikes and you are in an emergency scenario where you need to use antibiotics. It is doctor-created and doctor-recommended. You talk to their board-certified physicians through the process, and if you need to use these antibiotics at any point. But they've also got a new thing that they can offer you as well, and that is your daily medications, because there are supply chain issues across the world, and sometimes you might not be able to actually get your medications when you need them. So having a yearly supply of a bunch of different daily medications at home is something that the Jace Case can now provide. So you can check out all of the different daily medication options they've got, including generic options of Viagra and Cialis over at Jace Medical. So go to jacemedical.com and use the code LOCKEDON and save $20 off your order. The code is locked on. The website is jasemedical.com. Go and check it out. Okay, let's go on to the next one where there's probably a little bit more positivity or a little bit more excitement, I guess. Maybe that's the part of it that I want to get to, because they're talking Pacers and we're talking Sixers. Just every Pacers game, there's like 1 million points that get scored. I think we're figuring that out now. The Sixers 137, the Pacers 126. Haliburton continues to dominate. 25, 1 and 17, 2 steals and a block on 64%. There was skepticism about taking Haliburton in the top 5 of fantasy drafts this season. I would hope that skepticism has been removed now. He's an actual star. And Miles Turner, only 29 minutes, but 22 points, 3 blocks, and 4 triples is great. And then there's a bunch of weirdness. Obi Toppin did score okay, 14 points, but nothing else in 21 minutes. We don't need to hold on to Obi in 12-team leagues. While Aaron Nesmith had 8 points in 26, also not a 12-team league guy. Now, like 10 days ago, I said, I'm not sure we can really hold Ben Mathurin. He's not really providing anything. And then, of course, two games in a row where he was a monster. And I said, I'm not really sure that is 100% going to stick. Let's check it out. 9 points, 26 minutes, 5 rebounds, no threes, 36% shooting. So, understand that when you chase the big scoring night, which often is what people do, not saying he wasn't good because he put up good numbers, but I was yet to be 100% convinced that Mathurin was that guy on a regular basis, and that is where we're at. He's okay to roster. He's also okay to not roster. And over the last 5 games, even with those big ones there, he's not even a top 100 player in category leagues. And he's 136th for the year in points leagues. Buddy Hield, only 21 minutes. His minutes have continued to drop down. He's still providing good threes, 16 points and 4 threes. But in 20 minutes a night, if that is what he continues to play, that won't be rosterable. But hold for now. While we saw TJ McConnell into the rotation for some reason, 17 minutes for him and Nembhard played only 14, the Carlisle rotations continue to be frustrating. I also know that people are frustrated with Bruce Brown. He had single-digit usage here, only 9 points, but he still played 31 minutes, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and had 2 blocks. I would not drop Bruce Brown in category leagues. In points leagues, go ahead. He's not a good 12-team points league player. He's the 142nd ranked player. You get more use out of streaming that spot. Category leagues, it is a little bit different, and I'd rather hold for his category league potential than move on. For the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey, oh my God, this guy's amazing. Now, we thought there would be a significant bump in usage with Harden gone. That was accurate. But he's doing other things that we didn't really expect. 50 points is ridiculous, but 3 blocks? What? He didn't even get to the line much here. Now, I could easily come and tell you that he's not going to continue to shoot 45% from 3. But honestly, I don't know that I can tell you that. Because he's had like multiple 41, 42, 43% three-point shooting seasons. He was at 63% here. That's not going to hold. And he's at 64% from 3 in this game. Of course, that won't stick. But he is just elite in so many areas. And I don't even know that it's a sell high. In fact, I just wouldn't. I would just hold it and roll with it. That's just an amazing line. Embiid, 37, 13, and 7. Big numbers for both of these guys. Huge stuff. Now, with Kelly Oubre unfortunately out, I discussed that earlier on one of the shows, we did get Nick Batum starting, and he played 33 minutes. 9 points, 3 threes, 3 blocks. Now, 3 blocks and 3 threes is awesome. That is 12-team usable. I don't think we want to buy into that as a 12-team ad, but in a 14, I get it. We didn't really see any movement from Bob Covington, though. 15 minutes, 16 minutes, 2 points, 5 rebounds. If you added him in the hope that he would take some of Oubre's stuff, maybe you move on. We also didn't see huge amounts change for DeAnthony Melton in terms of role, but what we did see is him play better. 10, 4, and 6. Shot 57%. Turns out he's not a 30% shooter. He can actually improve from there. And I still maintain that he's a 12-team category player, but not a 12-team points player. Toby Harris, really empty. That's a thick Hogsman line, that one. 18, 9, and 4 with a 0-0 and 45% shooting. And the guy that actually got into the rotation, it wasn't Furky from Turkey. It wasn't Terquavion Smith. It was Daniel House Jr. 4 points in 16 minutes. We also got 17 Pat Beverly minutes. No real improvement there from Paul Reed. He is a Joel Embiid backup, and that is it. That's all he is. He's not getting any extra minutes. Didn't happen. Nurse lied. It's fine. We've moved on from that. House is the guy that stepped up, and then Batum moved into a 33-minute role. That is how they have filled the Kelly Oubre absence at this point. The Detroit Pistons. Are Pistons fans on board yet with my Troy Weaver needs to go from 3-4 years ago? Yeah. They lose to the Bulls, which is as damning a statement as anything. 119-108. Chicago gets the victory. They're still without players, but they got guys back. So no Bogdanovic still, no Harris, no Morris, no Livers. Jalen Duren was out. So they started Marvin Bagley at center, and he played 23 minutes, 14 and 5 with a block. Glad they signed him to that $40 million guaranteed contract. James Wiseman had 6 points in 14 minutes. Lucky they traded Sadiq Bey in 5 seconds for him. Really worked out fantastically. They were not particularly strong. But let's talk about the guys who did return. Alec Burks, the plus-minus wizard. 16 points in 21 minutes with 4 assists and 2 threes. 8 of 9 from the line. Is he back on the 12-team menu? Well, he's back on the 12-team streaming list for sure. And Jaden Ivey returned and had 6 points in 11 minutes. Now, he said he had some sort of illness. He didn't say what it was, that he caught in New Orleans, and he couldn't keep fluids down. He was just cooked. So maybe that's a part of it and why he played so few minutes. Or we just carry on the same stuff from beforehand where Monty Williams doesn't want to play him enough and he's just not useful at 12-team leagues. I lean the latter. I think he'll play more than 11 minutes most nights, but I don't think a big role is incoming necessarily. Killian Hayes saw only 25 minutes here, and we worried about what would happen with Hayes, but more importantly, what would happen with Sasa once guards came back. Burks and Ivy came back, 25 minutes for Hayes, 20 minutes for Sasa. Sasa, very clear 12-team drop. That sort of said the path for Sasa to get minutes when there's all these guys to return is tough. Hayes was playing 38 a night. The shot didn't fall, dropped off. I would hold Hayes over Sasa pretty clearly, but I'm not sure they're going to maintain 12-team value. Asar Thompson just had a brutal shooting night, but somehow had 16 rebounds with a block. Not a great night from Asar. And what else do I need to talk about here? Oh yeah, Isaiah Stewart's rebounds always go up when Duran is out, 11 boards for him. That's the only time I consider using him in 12s. And then Cade Cunningham, absolute stinker from Cade. But they still pump the minutes into him. 10 points, 5 assists, 2 blocks on 27% shooting. Very low usage night from Cade. And I checked it. So in -1 ranks, he's I think 44th for the season. So I know that I've heard people say the weirdest things. Man, I'm just going to sit Cade in my matchups. Like, I can't play him now. What are you talking about? Like, yes, you can play Cade Cunningham. I know there is some bad shooting nights, but you don't sit him in your matchups. The narrative from people playing fantasy who are strict adherence to ranking numbers versus the narrative around Cade when you listen to non-fantasy NBA podcasts is wild. The difference is crazy. Anyway, Cade before today was third favorite for most improved player, actually. So there you go. Kevin Knox out of nowhere from the top rope. 18 points in 24 minutes with 4 threes. I would not buy into that. This might be, though, back to Cade, this might be an opportunity like with Harden if his managers are considering sitting him in matchups, not playing him, buy it low. If they adhere to a Yahoo ranking that would tell you that him and Giannis are unrosterable in 12-team leagues, then you go and get him in a trade, yes? Yes, you do. That is exactly what you do. For the Bulls, no Alex Caruso. So we got big minutes from Ayo Dosunmu. 27 minutes for Dosunmu, 13 points with 3 steals on 86%. This is what he did when he was a starter in the past. He'd have these occasional nights where he'd shoot really well, but still 13 points. And nothing else accompanying it really. Well, the 3 steals are nice. Levine had 19, 3 and 2. Look, that's subpar. While my man Kobe White, I still believe 12-team league rosters. 16 points, 7 assists, 2 steals. I believe that is 20 assists in his last 3 games. Scoring okay, hitting threes, got some steals. 55th ranked player over the last 5 games. It's enough for me, yeah? Good schedule this week too. DeRozan chipped in 4 blocks. I don't know how that happened. He had 29 points without anything else though. And then Vooch had a really strong game. 21, 12 and 4. 2 steals and a block for Vooch. He's been better. He's not third round territory. He's more 4th and 5th, which is about the area that we looked at him as a draftable player. I don't think much else is going on there. Oh yeah, Patrick Williams sucks. 4 points for him in 19 minutes, while Torrey Craig had 10 boards in his 31 minutes. Let's go through onto the next one. It is the Dallas Mavericks and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Mavericks 136, the Pelicans 124. It wasn't really as close as this. This was a blowout, and it was like a 20-point game in the fourth quarter. Kyrie had 35, 6 and 7, while Luka had 30 and 4 and 9 assists. Both good shooting nights. Both of these guys are playing well. Hardaway did his thing, 15 points, 3 threes. That's great. 29% shooting, that's bad. That's what he brings. And we finally got a good Josh Green game when Kyrie and Luka are both there. 13 points, 2 steals, and 3 threes. We do not need to add Josh outside of 20-team leagues. But what we can do is we can jack Grant Williams off. He had a nice little run. It's over. We move on. 22 minutes, scoreless. He had 2 blocks, missed all 4 of his shots, 8% usage. Move on. You don't need him on your roster. And then Derek Jones, who I did add for today, just to see where it was going, played 22 minutes but got hurt. He returned to action, but that cut his minutes down. He had 7 points, 2 threes, and 2 assists. I'll hold Jones for one more game to see where we go with this. With Derek Lively, I think that's exactly what you want. Now, you want a couple more rebounds, but 10 and 2, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 80%. What more do you need from him? That's anything more you get from that is an absolute bonus, but that is sort of what you would have rostered him for, I'm guessing. For the Pelicans, still no Herb, no Alvarado, no Trey Murphy, no CJ McCollum, but Najee Marshall did return. But with Herb out, Dyson Daniels started. 17, 9 and 4 with 3 threes and 58%. Fantastic. He shot well. With Herb out, he is providing good value. I'm just not sure he's going to do enough when Herb returns. Well, Jordan Hawkins is going to be hit or miss. 10 points, 2 threes, 28 minutes, 23% shooting. He doesn't offer anything that's not points and threes, and it's going to fluctuate quite a bit. The thing with him is, and maybe I even got sucked into this as well, because I added him in one league. I think I might have even dropped him now. But in that first game that he started after the injury, he went crazy. And often we see that first game when a role changes, if you do really well in that game, we just ascribe that to the change in role or rotation, and it's not always the case. Well, it's generally not the case. And he's fallen back off. 27 minutes for Zion. Again, it was a blowout. He was bad from the line, 18, 2 and 4, and 64 from the field. I know people are disappointed with Zion's numbers. Yeah, he has not been at anywhere near his best. I still think there's plenty of room for him to improve. and Ingram at 20 and 5 with 5 assists. But with Zion, you have to understand what you're getting. You should be getting high percentage points with solid rebounds, some assists and defensive stats sprinkled in with bad free throws. He's not going to hit his absolute ceiling numbers until some other things come around. We know that. I still think he can get there in a few years, but each year that ticks on where he doesn't improve those things, then the chances of it happening aren't there. But he's definitely not someone that we're dropping. ESPN fantasy legend Matt Ryan had 14 points in 27 minutes with 4 threes. He's been an excellent stream for those of you in Sorry, I'm just being told he's not available for you to add on ESPN despite hitting a game winner for the most popular team in the world, the Lakers, last year. So, sorry, you can't actually add Matt Ryan. But those of you who don't play on ESPN, 14 points with 4 threes for Matt Ryan with 6 rebounds. He is an interesting streamer with these guys out. Najee Marshall returned, 14 minutes, 8 points. Just watch his minutes tick up, see what happens. And then Robinson Earl had 11 and 6 with 3 threes for old Jeremiah in his 26 minutes. Interesting, Larry Nance, just 7 minutes. Are they cutting him out of the rotation? One to watch. I didn't talk about Valanciunas. Probably should mention him. 15 and 10, but only 21 minutes. And his production feels relatively capped. Let us do the next game because it is the Denver Nuggets losing to the almighty Houston Rockets. Yes, and I'm not even taking the piss. They looked horrendous to begin the season, the Rockets, against the Magic. And now they're awesome. 107-104, Houston wins. For Denver, yes, they're without Jamal Murray. Reggie Jackson played 28 minutes, 14, 4, and 2 with 2 threes. That is the most Reggie Jackson line that I've seen. This is what he did for so many years with the Clippers that made him a fringe 12-team league player, which is where he's going to stay around now. Michael Porter Jr. played 38 minutes. They're pumping minutes into him at the moment, man. 25 and 10. Hope he holds up with 3 threes, while Jokic had 36, 21, and 11 on 50% shooting. What an awesome bloke this guy is. Just continues to roll. Big Az Gordon played 39 for 16, 8, and 5 with 2 blocks. Still probably a little bit underestimated, I would say. My mate, streaming legend Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, had 5 points in 38 minutes with a steal, 0 rebounds, 1 assist. Not a 12-team point seed guy. 100% jack him in that format. Category leagues, don't think you have to hold. I just don't, and I would say none of the numbers would suggest that I'm wrong. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But he's just not doing anything at the moment. Christian Brown played only 14 minutes and went scoreless. Obviously, he is not going to replace Bruce Brown's production from last season. For the Rockets, the delicate dancer, future All-Star, maybe this season, Alperen Şengün, 35 minutes, 23, 8, and 5, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Great percentages. Honestly, he's awesome. There are going to be people who will tell you that I got the projection on Şengün wrong this season. There is. And I don't know if you could have found a larger supporter of Şengün as a player through his 3 years in the league. I don't think you could. But what I am pleased to see is that unlike coaching legend Steven Silas, Ime Udoka is putting the ball in his hands and letting him cook. And we weren't sure that was going to be what happened. We just didn't know. After all, they tried to get Brook Lopez to replace him. And now they are rolling and he is killing it. Fred VanVleet, 26 in 41 minutes. He's playing so many minutes. Now, preseason I did say, yeah, look, he's not going to be playing under Nurse, but Udoka pumped the minutes into the starters. But I didn't expect this. He's getting so many minutes. Let's talk about some disappointing... Well, let's talk about Tari Eason, actually. 16 minutes for Tari's second season. 8 points, 2 threes. We all know that he's a strong player. The path to minutes still isn't entirely clear, and I'm not sure it comes without an injury. Jeff Green played 26 minutes. Do you know how he did that? Well, they benched Jabari Smith. 15 points for Jeff with 2 threes on 71%. Don't have to react to that, but it is concerning for Jabari, who had 8 points in 20 minutes with 7 rebounds. Now, you know that I was big on Jabari Smith last season, pre-season. Thought, oh yeah, these numbers all translate pretty well. He's going to have an opportunity, and he was bad. He was bad until the end of the season, and then this season, everyone was hyping him up because of Summer League and pre-season. I probably pushed back a bit on that. But he's even been underwhelming compared to where I had him. 8 and 7, 20 minutes. I would not drop him, but in a shallow format or a points league format, I would consider it. There is an argument to be made that perhaps Tari Eason, and this is something that I said all the way back in July, could Tari Eason take this spot? I'm not sure we're there, but we watch it. Dylan Brooks, I was going to say the bloom is off the rose, but is Dylan Brooks ever a rose? He's not. But 10 points, 29 minutes, no defensive stats. He's still shooting well, but usage well down, as it should be. But he was just shooting so unbelievably well and playing so many minutes with Eason out that it is dropped back now. So I think we can feel okay about moving on from Brooks, while Jalen Green, 9 points on 8% shooting. Not 80, 8. 7.7 to be exact. 9, and the line's actually fine. 9, 8, and 5 would have been awesome had he hit, let's say, more than one shot. He was 1 of 13. Brutal. Now, his ranking numbers, again, will suggest he's probably not a 12-team category league guy. And I don't think that is accurate. You don't want to drop him because he does have that scoring ability. But he's definitely not a well-rounded player, and he's definitely not a good category league player. Much better in points where he is top 100 for the season. He is not that in category leagues. Let's go to the Heat and the Spurs. Miami without a bunch of players again. They win. 118, 113. Tyler Hero out. Caleb Martin still out. Kyle Lowry resting on the second half of a back-to-back. So Jaime Jaquez went to the bench and they started Josh Richardson, but Jaquez was still the guy who got the minutes, which is not unexpected. 11 points for Jaquez with 3 steals, a block, and 6 rebounds. There will be people that go and add him for 12-team leagues. I don't think there's any long-term value in that. The value in him was streaming across this weekend, this Saturday-Sunday set, where Butler sat and then Lowry sat. That makes sense for Jaquez. Maybe he maintains a solid role when Hero or while Hero is out, but I'm not sure that... Let's eliminate the steals. 11, 6, and 3 is all right, but it's not like I must have this guy sort of numbers. Richardson was questionable heading in, then had back spasms and didn't start the second half. I think he's definitely on watch. 12, 3, and 4 is all right, but I'm not doing much with that. Well, Highsmith have been playing well, old Haywood. He went scoreless with 4 rebounds. I would give him maybe one more game, but also not a priority to hold on to him. Kevin Love has overtaken Thomas Bryant as the backup center. Bryant is bad. We realized this 2 years ago. The Nuggets realized it immediately. The Lakers realized it now. Now the Heat are realizing it. How many times does it take a team to realize he shouldn't play? This has got to be it, surely. Let's talk Drew Smith, actually. 27 minutes for Smitty, 12, 4, and 3. That's really solid for deeper leagues. But when Lowry plays, he won't be able to get this many minutes. Duncan Robinson, I skipped the big story. 39 minutes, 26, 5, and 4 with 4 threes. He started both games on the weekend, and you would have to expect that he is the starter with Hero out. That makes him a points and threes type streamer. Now, like Jordan Hawkins, like Tim Hardaway, there are going to be nights where the shot doesn't go in and he offers nothing. But there are going to be nights like this where he delivers amazing numbers. And he is a 12-team option, and I would prefer him over Jaquez, over Richardson, over Highsmith. Jimmy Butler, really big buy low. He's just not right, is he? There's something wrong. 36% shooting, 19, 6, and 4. He's been, as the kids would say, mid. Basically all season. While Adebayo had 24, 11, and 6 with 3 steals for the Spurs. Keldon Johnson sucked balls last game, but he was really good here. 20 and 12 with 6 assists and 3 threes. A good bounce back. While Trey Jones was out, so Sohan played 34 minutes, 16, 5, and 3, 2 blocks and 2 threes. And don't look now, Sohan's actually playing all right. I think you probably want to add him, and like with Tyus, Trey is not a starting point guard. And I know everyone is going to say, you've got Wembanyama, get a real point guard in there. I don't think that having Trey Jones starting instead of Wembanyama or instead of Sohan is going to impact Victor that much this season. I think you just want to see what Sohan can do. Now, whether or not I agree with that, and it's more that I understand it. And when they have their top 10 pick from a year ago, Jeremy Sohan, and they're going to run him in this role, they're not going to give up on it after 5 games. And he's improving. It is going to be here for a while. There will be ups and downs for sure. But they will continue to roll with this for a while, I believe. Devin Vassell didn't really play that well. 14, 7, and 4, while Collins had some efficiency issues. 18, 5, and 2. Well, not efficiency, just field goal percentage. Branham scored well, but I'm not going to buy into that. And I didn't even talk Wemby, who dished 7 assists. That's the key. If he can become an assist guy, and I think he might be able to be a good passer, that is where he gets top 2 fantasy value in the future. 18, 11, and 7. But as expected, there are going to be efficiency problems. 36% from the field and didn't attempt a free throw, and he had 7 turnovers. He's going to have some issues with that this season. He still, of course, has been ridiculously good for a 19-year-old rookie. Let's go to the next game, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They travel to Phoenix and get the win, 111-99. Kenrich Williams still out for the Thunder, but doesn't really seem to matter, does it? Shea was awesome, 35, 7, and 4 with 2 threes. Chet Holmgren had not his best game, but still pretty good. 18 and 6 with 3 threes and 2 blocks, while the Bronco, Jalen Williams. Now, he'd been struggling a little bit, Jalen, but he was great. 38% shooting, 31 points, 3 threes, 69% shooting, and he had 2 steals. Now, the steal numbers have been down this season. Everything's been a little bit low. This was great. Doesn't fix everything that's been a problem, but it's still really good. And Giddey was all right. 10, 6, and 10. 1 steal, 2 blocks. I don't get that from Josh very often. And shot just 42%. We still hold him, obviously, but still not delivering what some expected. Well, Lou Dort, 9 points, 33 minutes. We knew that the shooting wouldn't stay where it was, 30% shooting here. But he's bringing the steals. 3 steals here and a block. So you can continue to use him if you are still considering him as a defensive sort of a player with anything else you get that's a bonus. As for the bench, not much there. Scoreless night from Kaysan Wallace, 0 points in 17 minutes. If you do have Dort, though, back to Dort, like it's worth holding because they've got the Thursday, Saturday, Sunday back-to-back to end week 4, which is really, really useful. And that's where we look at an Isaiah Joe or a Kaysan Wallace, even though they didn't do much here. Joe had 3 points with 1-3, and Jalen Williams, Pig Williams, had 3 points as well. For the Suns, still without Booker, and then they were without Eric Gordon here as well. Durant continuing to play unbelievably well. 28, 9, and 4, 1 steal, 2 blocks on 39%, which is rough, but 11 from the line. And we had a big Jordan Goodwin game. 11, 6, and 3, 3 threes, a steal, and a block. We know what he puts up. But we also know that it requires 2 guys out of the guard rotation to get there. And that was Booker and Gordon here. And when one of them comes back, he plays 16 minutes. When they both come back, he probably plays 0. Brad Beal still not really right, is he? 15 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists in 30 minutes. Shot poorly from both the field and the line. I am a little bit concerned about this back problem being an ongoing thing. In fact, I'm a little bit more than a little bit concerned. I'm a little actually shit scared about where we're going with this. It's good to have him back, but I'm just a little bit like, how long for? Nurkic had 3 points, 2 steals, 2 blocks, so good defensive stats, but his big minutes dropped off, and that meant the return of Eubanks. 15 and 5 on 78%. Drew had been putting up good 12-team numbers, fell away a little bit, but this was a good little bounce back from him. While Grayson Allen had 7 and 6. We can never trust Grayson Allen, of course. We can stream him, but we can never trust him. They made a change to put Josh Okogie back into the starting lineup. I wouldn't say Okogie's playing well. I don't think he's hit a 3 in the last 3 games. He missed all of his shots today and somehow scored 8 points because he had 8 free throws. 8 points in 21 minutes, while Keita Bates-Diop played 27 off the bench, still getting more than Okogie. Neither of those guys, Bates-Diop and Okogie, are really even sniffing 12-team league value. The second last game of the night, we get the Minnesota Timberwolves knocking off the Golden State Warriors. 116-110, the final score. There was some doubt about Anthony Edwards before the game with an illness, but he played 38 minutes, had 33, 6, and 7. Shot poorly, but was great from the line, 10 of 10. So that's a fantastic game. And Karl Anthony Towns, the buy low bump. 21 and 14, 2 threes, 2 steals, 1 block. Good shooting, great numbers. Mike Conley just keeps chugging along, 8, 5, and 9. Love that. While Nazareth Reed played through an injury, 10 and 6 in 19 minutes. That's okay, but we still hold barely. I'm not sure we need to barely hold Jaden McDaniels. 35 minutes, 13 points. Starts out well, but no rebounds, none. 1 assist, no steals, no blocks, and it took 75% shooting to get their usage of 10. Great player, bad at fantasy. Don't think you need to hold him in a 12-team points league. Don't think you need to hold him in a 10-team category league. Don't think you need to hold him in a 12-team category league, although finding good minute starters is hard to do. But an honest appraisal of your roster, if he is your worst player, then you jack him off. Gobert, 10 and 10 with 5 blocks. The blocks are back for Gobert. Unfortunately, the free throws stink. Ignore Yahoo rankings. We know we're punting free throws with Rudy. He's been much better this season. While Kyle Anderson, this is part of my Kyle Anderson issue, is that when everyone's playing, how does he play enough? Well, the answer is he doesn't. 17 minutes, actually 8 and 4. Just not enough playing time. Shake Milton only the 10 minutes for 1 point. That's sick. For the Warriors, let's go to Washed Watch. Let's go to Klay Thompson. 16, 5, and 3 is okay. But he shot 31% and continues to just struggle. This is what we saw from Klay to begin last season. This is what we saw from Klay in the playoffs. He had a hot stretch from January through April, so I guess we just hold waiting for that to turn around. But I'm not feeling great about it. Šarić played 27 minutes, while Draymond only played 24. Interesting. 11 and 10 for Dario, probably more a 14-teamer. Steph had 38, 5, and 3. And honestly, this team is probably bad without Steph, really bad. Wiggins, again, he was questionable for this with his rib/thoracic issue. He just sucks, man. Maybe it is the injury, but he's bad, and we are not waiting around. We have not been waiting for the last 2 weeks. Do you need a further push? Here it is. Drop him. 6 points, 4 rebounds, 25 minutes for Wiggo. Looney had 2 and 6, and Chris Paul, we are getting to the drop stage for him. 2 points, 5 assists, missed all 3 of his shots, 22 minutes. I think he gets traded this season. And yeah, he's really struggling. I would probably hold on to him. Just finding a guy that can get you 6 or 7 assists is tough to do. But it is very, very rough. Very rough. And we thought that when he was going in the 80s or 90s, oh man, it's Chris Paul. He's probably going to be better than that. No, they've cut his minutes way down. Even after encouraging start to the season, playing 32 minutes a night, not anymore. He's just not playing. And yeah, it's not looking very good for him. Clay's struggling. Draymond actually looks awesome. He looks like their second best player very easily. But everyone else struggling. Another bad night from Kuminga. 10 points on 18%, and the vaunted third-year bump that never fails has left Kuminga as the 292nd ranked player so far this season. That brings us across to the final game of the day, and it is the Portland Trailblazers going down in the end to the Lakers, 118-110. Of course, the Blazers were without Scoot and Simons and Malcolm Brogdon, so the big fella Skylar Mays started. Now, we got a bit of a scare at the beginning of the second half when he didn't start, and I actually had people, man, do I drop him now? Like, no, you don't. We just wait. And I'm glad, or I hope you did. 33 minutes, 15 points, 12 assists, 54% shooting for Mays. He is going to be a 12-team league guy for as long as Brogdon or Scoot are out. So you roll with him. Hope you added him. He was on the front of yesterday's Week 4 preview. He was featured heavily in the Daily Waivers show. Hope you added him. Good game from Thibault, although they bench him at the end. It's weird what they do with him. 20 minutes, 14 points, 4 threes, 1 steal, 2 block. It's an excellent category league line. He's still worth streaming for defensive stats, but we don't have much consistency. Jeremy Grant, 23 points in 41 minutes, while Shaden had 19, 3, and 4 in 42 minutes. Shaden Sharp is getting a ton of minutes. That is really what is driving a lot of his production. He will not play 42 minutes a night all season, and I think there will be a situation where he moves at least not into like a must-drop territory, but into a maybe we drop this guy territory. Just watch that one. Don't do anything with it, apart from selling high. If you get a top 50 guy, you do it. Ayton had 12 and 7 with 2 blocks, and there was speculation from me and many others. Who would take Robert Williams' role? Would it be Moses Brown? Well, we determined that he was bad. We'd known this for years. He got 0 minutes. Would it be Jabari Walker? Well, not really. He played 18 minutes and had 8 and 4. Some suggested it might be Tamani Kamara. I disagree with that one. At least I got that one right. 2 points, 24 minutes, 6 rebounds for Kamara. Not a center. Not getting center minutes. The guy that got the minutes was Australian legend Duop Reith. 11 points, 3 threes, 3 assists, 14 minutes. 31 usage won't stick for old mate Duop, but he can hit threes. He did it. The problem here is, do you know where I'm going with this? Maybe you do. The problem here is that if you do want to add old mate Duop Reith, if you don't want to go in and say, well, I think he might work on my team, you better play on a platform that isn't ESPN, and you better play on a platform that isn't Yahoo. Now, Yahoo is much better than ESPN, but that's 2 guys who they don't have. Stanley Amude and Duop Reith. Now, ESPN, they don't even have a starter in this game. Oh, actually, that's not true. They do have Skylar Mays. My apologies. I don't think they had him last season. They do have Skylar Mays. My bad. They don't have Jacob Gilead. That's the guy. But you can't add Reith if you play on ESPN or Yahoo. You can on CBS, and you can on Fantrax. Shout out to those guys. Embarrassing for the 2 largest fantasy platforms, which I've only got 1 league on Yahoo this season, and every other one is on Fantrax. Because these sites don't pay as much attention as they need to. So you can't add Reith in any of those things. Yahoo will add him quicker than ESPN. ESPN's still waiting 2 years to add guys, so who knows when they get added. And I'd consider Duop, because Rob Williams isn't coming back. There's no other center coming back. So Duop, even though he's a 2-way guy, we've already seen them convert Skylar Mays. In a 20-team league, you've got to look at Reith as maybe someone to pay attention to. Maybe. Not much else going on in that one. Oh yeah, the guy they started in the second half over Skylar Mays. And Skylar Mays, apologies to you, Skylar, and your family. He must have been dropping one of the biggest shits ever that mean he couldn't start. There was no other reason. He must have been just ripping anus out the back there, because there is no chance he was bench for performance. They started Jamari Boyea, who is an interesting player, but he had 6, 4, and 3 in those 12 minutes. Man, is Jamari Boyea available in ESPN? This is going to be our daily game. No, of course he isn't. How many guys in this Blazers game are not available on ESPN? Well, that's 2 with Rieth and Boyer. Did Justin Minaya get into the game? Let's have a look, because he's not available on ESPN either. So that's 3 players. He didn't play. 3 players on this roster are unavailable to add on ESPN. I'm sorry. You can tell me, I like how ESPN looks. I don't care. That is embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. 3 players. It's an 18-man roster. So it's 33. No, it's not 33. What am I talking about? It's 16% of the roster that you don't have available. That's dreadful, man. Let's talk about the Lakers. No, LeBron, we said he injured, or maybe I wrote it somewhere. I don't know. I think I wrote it on Basketball Monster. He injured his leg in the last game, played through it, but didn't go here. So they started Rui Hachimura, and he was pretty good. 19-5 with 2 steals. If LeBron remains out, he can stream. But what about Cam Reddish? Now, Reddish is a very interesting case here. 38 minutes, 18-7, 3 steals and a block. Now, one thing I did say about Reddish the other day was he historically has been a good threes and steals guy, and he delivered that. There is a boost here because LeBron was out. He was able to play 38 minutes, but he is going to stick starting, I would say. And if you do need steals and threes, he will be an option for you. He won't play 38 minutes every night. He won't shoot 70%, I guarantee you of that. But this was probably the best Cam Reddish has ever looked. I wouldn't look at him as a 12-team must-roster player. I would consider him as a stream guy if we know LeBron is going to be out, and if you're looking for threes and steals. That's what he brings. Whatever else you get is a bonus. But this was really encouraging. Austin Reeves came off the bench. The 28 minutes you don't love, but 18, 4, and 4 you do. So still keep going with him, obviously. Taurean Prince had 13 points, while Russell had 11, 5, and 11. Not a great night for D'Lo. And it appears that Christian Wood is back to being Christian Wood. Like I said earlier with Tom Bryant, it's interesting to watch these teams take chances on these guys who put up box score numbers, highlight reel bias, and they roll with it and then see how long it takes them to realize that, maybe not. Maybe we don't want him out there. 7 points in 15 minutes for Wood, 25% shooting, and they have gone away from using him, and this is without Jared Vanderbilt returning. It is a repeating pattern for these players. And eventually, surely a team is going to be like, ooh, no, we just don't want to waste that roster spot. Not to say that Wood can't be better than this, because he had some good moments early on in the season, but something has definitely changed, and he is clearly out of favor. Anthony Davis, great from him. 30-11 with 6 assists and 3 blocks in a game where he'd missed the previous one with his groin spasm. So he groin spasmed all over the Blazers here for a very, very big line. So congratulations to Anthony Davis. I don't have a stream of the day recap to do because on Sundays we just give individual players for specific categories. So we don't go through that. But what we can go through now is go through our lines of the night. So let's do that now and go with the monstrous line of the night. There were a couple of guys who were in the mix for this, but in the end, we are going to one of the Tyreses. It's Maxey. 50 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 7 triples. He was obviously amazing in this one. We are going to give a combined award. The waiver wire line of the night and the young gun of the night. I don't know if I push these in order or not, but anyway, waiver wire and young gun of the night is the same player today. And that player is the Washington Wizards' number 7 overall pick, Bilal Coulibaly. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. With DeLon Wright out, stop saying that wrong, Josh. With DeLon Wright out, Bilal is worth having a look at. I featured him on the daily stream option for Monday. With only 4 games on, you add him anyway and see what happens. He's absolutely worth a crack just to see where we go. We saw flashes in preseason. Unsold we can't trust with the rotations, but we have a look here. And then we do the dud of the night, and we're not actually going to move very far from where we were in Washington because the dud of the night, who is it? You all hope it's going to be Jordan Poole. It's not. Because how do you compete with 0 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist from Tyus Jones? Because that's what he gave us. Let's now go through the top 6 players, our top 6 lists for today. All right, let's look at the top 6 players in category leagues for today. Number 1 was Tyrese Maxey, followed by Jokic, followed by Tyrese Haliburton, Kyrie Irving, LaMelo Ball, and Joel Embiid. Let's look at our top 6 players available in 50% of leagues or more. Bilal at number 1, Cam Reddish at 2, Duncan Robinson. All of those guys are 12-team options. Jeremy Sohan, yeah, Rui Hachimura, maybe. Matisse Thybulle, specialist sort of an option, not necessarily a must. And then lastly, we look at the top 6 performers in points leagues for today. Number 1 was actually Jokic, followed by Maxey, Embiid, Anthony Davis, Tyrese Haliburton, and Idris Adebayo. And that will do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. And on YouTube, thumb it up and leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.